Hi, Stefano Molea here, San Diego criminal defense lawyer and partner at the law office of David P. Shapiro, where we help good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime. In this video, I want to provide some basic information about a general concept within criminal law, and that is the burden of proof in criminal law. Many of you probably already know that the burden for the prosecution is beyond a reasonable doubt. What that means is that the prosecution has the burden of proving each and every element of the charged crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, reasonable doubt is one of those terms that a jury has to kind of figure out. They get a little bit of direction in the jury instructions, and the definition is kind of vague, right? It's a little bit difficult to really pinpoint because you can't give a percentage. You can't say beyond a reasonable doubt is being 95 or 98 or 99% certain of something. And so the sort of phrase that's used in the jury instructions is that the evidence leaves you with an abiding conviction that the charges are true. It's like, okay, well, how helpful is that? And so, at least for me and some other attorneys that I know, there is a way to sort of provide some context, right? Because if you take beyond a reasonable doubt by itself, it's a little bit hard to kind of figure out where it fits in the grand scheme of things without the additional context of other burdens of proof. So in this video, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of essentially what I would probably be discussing with the jury when trying to describe how high the burden of proof really is in a criminal case. So at the bottom of this sort of stairway of burdens, as we sometimes call it, the bottom is reasonable suspicion. And that's the amount of proof that's necessary for a person to be detained by law enforcement. Okay, so like, for example, a traffic stop. There just has to be a little bit of evidence that there's something possibly going on that is criminal, okay? And that obviously can include an infraction or a vehicle code violation. Then above reasonable suspicion is probable cause. And probable cause is the amount of evidence necessary to effectuate an arrest, to actually, put somebody in handcuffs and take them to jail, right? So a decent amount of evidence is necessary for that. Now, we're going to kind of filter in some other burdens that don't necessarily apply directly in criminal, but again, this is for the purpose of the general context of the burden of proof for beyond a reasonable doubt. So you've got reasonable suspicion, you got probable cause, then you have preponderance of the evidence, and that's the kind of burden that you see in civil, right? So it's strangely there, they can attribute a percentage, and generally it's more likely than not, or 51%, right? You're 51% certain of something, more likely than not. That's pretty much what it is, right? And that's when there's a civil lawsuit, right? It's about money typically, right? What does a jury have to believe in order to award money to a plaintiff? Then above that is clear and convincing evidence. And this is a burden that's used by dependency court when dependency court is deciding whether or not to take a child away from the child's parents. Okay, so now we see, right, we've got burden for awarding money, we've got a higher burden, clear and convincing evidence for taking a kid away from their family, and then above that, you have beyond a reasonable doubt. And so when you put it in context, it kind of helps really emphasize how high of a burden it is. Hope this discussion was helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or give me a call. Stefano Molea, San Diego criminal defense lawyer, 619-295-3555.